Welcome to the Round Ball Warm Up. I'm your host, Neil Simons. Joining me is Cameron Wiper. How you doing, mate? Oh, as always, jeez.
Yeah, I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. You know what? I'll tell you what. Football has not been on my mind this week as much as it had been in previous weeks. There's kind of a tennis tournament in my backyard, which I will have to attend to very soon. But obviously, yeah, the Australian Open's going on. We all know about that, and we've all been engrossed in that. But it's time to take a step back and talk about football because I'll tell you what, the past week in Australian football has to have been the greatest week on and off the pitch in months, and I think it's been a wonderful showcase of good and entertaining football. But there's much more to talk about, isn't there, Cameron?
Yeah, it's been not just in the A League itself, but a load of players doing really well outside in Europe and Asia as well. So it's been a really interesting week to sort of watch how it's played out and see people get their opportunities. And then some of the A League games have been fantastic in terms of entertainment value as well.
Yeah, and I think it really it's a showcase of what if you give the A League a proper platform, if you give them the due diligence, they can do wonderful things. So there's plenty to look forward to. And going on to start off, we've got the Craig Dean's appointment for the Newcastle Jets job. It was reported earlier this week. It was a 4-horse race between John Aloisi, Gary Van Egmond, your man Kenny Lowe, and obviously Craig Deans. So Craig Deans gets a permanent job after his win against City and the positive outings that he's had in recent weeks. Cameron, it was pretty much a done deal that he was going to secure the job after the City game, you'd think. But is this the right appointment for them going forward?
100% it is. This is someone that's, he's worked with the squad and he's taken them out of a really bad situation where there was all sorts of controversy on and off the field. And now he's got the team playing well and they're actually getting results. It's a major coup to beat Melbourne City. I know Melbourne City haven't been the same size as they were since last season, but for that squad to go and beat them in the manner that they did, to keep a clean sheet as well, is really impressive. So I think Newcastle have made the correct decision to stick with Deans. It would have been suicidal to go and get someone else instead.
Class. Nah, undefeated. Anyway, go on.
But I think we can all agree on this one that Deans was 100% the right person for the job, and I'm quite excited to see what else he can do there because after a slowish start, Newcastle is slowly creeping up the table and a few good results here and there, and they no one's can be discounted from getting finals football this year. Everyone has a shot at it.
Everyone has a shot. Everyone does have a shot. I think it's
and how results have been going this year.
Yeah, it's been wonderful, very encouraging to see. They've uncovered a lot of players. Look, Bereshaw put a very good showing against City and against Western Sydney, and he started against City as well. So he's been very impressive for me. Obviously, Valentino Ewell has been fantastic as all. And Roy Donovan's, he's scoring, for fun. Well, not as for fun, but he's getting in there. And definitely you can see the progression that side has made under Craig Deans, where he's had a lot of interim roles, most recently for when Ernie Merrick got sacked, but he's finally got his permanent place and he deserves it. It would either be him joining the club on a permanent basis or him just leaving the club altogether. So I think the Jets have made a fantastic decision, and especially with all the financial difficulties that they've been having, it's a fantastic, I think, step in the Jets' journey post Martin Lee. We can't show footage for this because we'll get copyright striked, but Matt Ryan made his EPL debut on Saturday night in Australia. Obviously, it's funnily enough, you could actually watch it at an acceptable time, Cameron. So he's conceded within 74 seconds, which wasn't an ideal start, but made the most saves out of every Arsenal keeper this season thus far in the Premier League, I believe. And it was a fantastic showing for Matt Ryan on his Arsenal debut.
Yeah, it was impressive. There's not really a lot he could have done about the first goal, the goal. from that game that came so quickly. I think it's a deflection off Rob Holding, and it was from very, very close range. So it's excusable that, he conceded that one. But after that, he made a fantastic showing and made a couple of really good stops, particularly in the first half. I think it was Ollie Watkins that was bearing down on goal, and I think he tried to lob Ryan.
And he pumped it away.
A very good confidence builder to stand up to him and just pluck the ball out of the air and keep hold of it as well. So I think it was a really impressive performance from him. And yeah, he's really shone in terms of showing how well he can do on such a big side, big squad. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think it's a fantastic showing for Australians in world football besides Australia. And I think it's a landmark moment. Your Twitter was going off, and it was fantastic for Optus Sport to get that engagement for that evening. And I think it really showed during the week with Abdelmobil's winner during the week, and also Martin Boyle's double on the weekend, and also Daniel Arzani making his 90th minute debut for AGF. So a lot to look forward to for Aussies abroad. Obviously, Nika Derokovica also scoring freely. But back to A-League, Melbourne Victory. Now, they're in trouble. They're in a lot of trouble. They're more or less they have pretty much got a full fit squad. Obviously, Robbie Cruz isn't getting 90 minutes every week, which is that happens. But I thought I'd just go on a tangent here to describe how disgruntled Melbourne Victory fans may feel, aside from the active support debacle that is discussed today on the various social medias. Melbourne Victory have gone through a lot of issues in the past 2 years, from poor management to poor recruitment, to poor communication ultimately between the club officials and managers. To have your current manager coming out in July stating that he does not want the job, and then obviously suddenly 2 months later, after losing all games bar one against a bogey game against Perth Glory, minus Diego Castro, to say that you deserve the job is pretty much, I think, a bit premature for him. But I think he's a talented coach. However, there is no excuses. Compared to Marco Kurtz, there are no excuses here. He did not recruit his own squad, being Marco Kurtz. And Brebs was actually on the phone to McManaman, Shotton, Butterfield, and just dead. To see how disgruntled and furious Victory fans have been over the past 6 games has been a sight to see. That first half against Brisbane, they played such fluid football and they were down 2-1. If that's the best half of football that they can produce within the A-League season, they're in big trouble. And I think the past 5 games, the Brisbane Roar, they conceded 3 goals within 18 minutes. And a Brisbane Roar side, which admittedly is not the best side that they've ever had, but they've had a very good season. And you would expect with former championship players, Jacob Butterfield, Callum McManaman obviously didn't play then, but you shouldn't concede 3 goals in 18 minutes. And to expect Brebs to play a free-flow attacking style with a midfield that consists of Lee Broxham, who shouldn't be starting, Jake Bremer, who's been the shining light this season, and Jacob Butterfield, who's been pretty inconsistent, he's ridiculous. And then you have this defense with Dylan Ryan, who's not a ready-made starting caliber centre-back for any club in the A-League, and he's clearly not a starting centre-back for Willem II in the Eredivisie. I know I'm going on a tangent here, but the issues here are deep-rooted. It's been very difficult to fix these issues. There's no connection between the midfield and the attack. You got selections which are questionable. Aaron Anderson has been barely seen any minutes if at all, any minutes this season. Nick Ansel's injured. Marco Rojas has been pretty horrible this season as well. Robbie Cruz is unfit. Justed is unfit. McManaman, who we thought was going to be added to the squad to Brisbane, failed a fitness test on the match day. These issues are deep-rooted for the Victory, and I am a Victory fan till I die, and I think they'll turn it around eventually. But if something doesn't change, they can be in big trouble.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on there. With the trouble that they've got on the field, it's rooted off some stuff off the field as well. Firstly, they need to look after the players a lot better than they have been. With the amount of injuries that they've had, I think McManaman and Jested got injured in the same game. Those are your two, probably your biggest signings and your biggest foreigners. That you lose them both in the same game, you're obviously going to struggle for the next couple of weeks. What has irks me most about the situation? Anyone in any football fan that has looked at the Championship or the Premier League can tell you that Callum McManaman and Rudy Gestede have injury problems, and I think the same goes for Jacob Butterfield as well. So when you're doing your recruitment, I know it's easier said than done, but surely you cannot rely on Rudy Gestede staying fit the whole season, and you cannot gamble on that. They've got Ben Falami, they've got Luis Laurie Latanzio as their other two strikers, neither of whom have played regular senior football before. You need to really have a senior striker as a reserve, someone that's possibly A-League proven, but maybe someone from abroad instead. If you're going to have that many players that you know will have injury issues, and then you've also got the likes of Adama Traore, Marco Rojas, Robbie Cruz, all of whom have had major injuries in their career, the player recruitment has not been thorough enough for them. And that, I believe, is down to Grant Brebner and his selections. And I think that's a big, big failing of the off-season. And that's why they're going to struggle so much this season. Unless I think there's a transfer window coming up in the next couple of weeks. They need to urgently find some attacking options that will be
possibly a centre back as well. And speaking of centre backs,
centre back. I mean, Dylan Ryan. I think for me, he's only had one good game this season, and it was against Perth, where he kept Fornaroli really quiet. But as soon as people have got the ball on the ground and trying to run at him, he's struggling so much. What he did so well against Perth with Fornaroli was he was able to be more physical than him in the air. But other than that, it just wasn't really good enough.
And I thought I'd bring your attention to this. I thought it was quite funny. Obviously, quite a reputable source amongst football Twitter in Australia, saying Rhys Williams was signed for XXX club. He's been linked to many A-League clubs, Perth Glory as well. And Rhys Williams has entertained this, saying, "Can I vote? Is there a victory return on the cards?" I don't know. Quite funny, I might add. So, props to football Twitter for providing the goods again. But there is an A-League signing that has been announced. Craig Goodwin's back in Adelaide, as I will play the the signing clip that got announced. That was played, obviously. But it's an interesting move how this actually came about. But regardless of the fact, this is going to really improve the A-League as a whole quality, and will also improve their left wing stocks as well.
Yeah, this is a talented player. He's come back to the league on a couple of occasions now, and we all know what he can do. He's an absolute wizard on the ball. If he gets the ball on the wing and can cut inside, it's more than likely that the ball's going to finish in the top corner. So this is an absolute weapon for Adelaide to have, and it's a stronger attacking option. And I think I'm most excited for what he can do with Tommy Juric up front. This Goodwin's really good for set pieces, corners, and even just crosses from the wing. Tommy Juric is going to thrive off that. So I'm really excited to see what he can do. And personally, I'm quite relieved Perth have played Adelaide twice already this season, so we only have to go up against them once more, because I think they're going to improve a huge amount.
Definitely, and I couldn't say more. I think this first of all, this announcement video is absolutely hilarious. Adelaide United playing into the memes. It's what we want to see within Australian football. But yeah, this is going to improve A-League's attack, the Adelaide's attacking problems. I mean, they've definitely struggled on the left wing, I feel. I mean, DeCooley's been good in stages. I mean, he got taken off after 35 minutes against Perth last week, so that clearly illustrates they may have some issues on that left flank as a whole. not just with Noah Smith, who's been quite decent this season. Going into our A-League previews, we've got Macarthur against Adelaide, as we will play the highlights against the Perth Glory. Cameron, this has got all the makings to be a goal fest. Macarthur scoring relatively freely against, Western Sydney and then against Brisbane, where they probably didn't deserve to score in their stages. So they're able to play against, I want to play pretty effectively. This one, though, it's going to be interesting for Adelaide. And it's going to be I think both sides are really equal in terms of where they stand at the moment. Wouldn't you say, Cameron?
Yeah, it's quite a similar matchup, actually. And both teams are struggling defensively, but also they're relatively free-flowing going forward. I think actually Macarthur put up quite a good showing against Brisbane to stop the likes of Dylan Winterhorse from scoring. So saying that they're struggling defensively is probably a little bit inaccurate. But on the basis of how the whole season has gone, Macarthur aren't exactly watertight, and Adelaide have been far from it. And the manner in which they sat back and let Perth get back into the game in this game is something that Carl Viet won't want to repeat. And I think if they do that against Macarthur are going to punish them. They've got such quality in their midfield and then up front as well. Matt Derbyshire is finally, kicking on and getting his goals, and it was a really well-taken goal against Brisbane. Adelaide cannot afford to have a repeat of the performance that they had against Perth. And they need to start, getting wins on the board. All right, as I said earlier, I reckon they can be up there and really kick on once they've got Goodwin back, but they need to start sooner rather than later in terms of getting a good run of results. And I think Macarthur have got a brilliant opportunity to really nail down their finals credentials, because they're on off the back of a really, really good win against probably the most impressive team in the league so far. So their confidence will be high, and if they can sink Adelaide, they will be up there at the end of the season as well.
Yeah, I think really you look at this game, and it's really going to be the game which Adelaide has. They have to prove themselves. Away from home, they've been quite horrific, and I think you look at how the attack and the defense sort of comes together. There's the chemistry isn't really there at the moment. I think that's where they falter. However, look, I mean, defensively, they sat too far back last game against Perth. Once Perth, you can't afford Perth of all teams to press you. You've got Fornaroli, Castro, Keogh, and D'Agostino. You've got so many of those players who are going to punish you, and you obviously saw that with the goal in that second half that Adelaide they went down 2-1. And also, they've got some more injury issues, Adelaide. They've got Ryan Strain, Ryan Kidder, Michael Jacobson, and Javi Lopez all out. So this is going to be, the depth for Adelaide is going to be tested. And Goodwin's yet to obviously arrive in Adelaide. He's obviously undergoing quarantine. But this new centre-back partnership between Elsie and Timotheu is going to be very interesting as well. Timotheu, second start in his career, so it's going to be a very interesting one for him. He was good in many stages against Perth. Obviously, it was very unfortunate to have that deflection there. But I think against Macarthur, they've got the experience of Benyat Echevarria and also Susaeta, who came off the bench against Brisbane. And people thought that Ante Milicic was possibly throwing in the towel with that lineup that they put out. Obviously, Antonis Martis. I think Liam Rose also started. But they definitely have the depth to take them through games. And in a very tight and confined schedule that Macarthur have, I won't be surprised at home if they're able to get the win. However, they have not yet gained a win at home. So there's plenty to look forward to for this game. And I think we'll have a look at the Macarthur highlights and talk more about them in depth just in several moments. But Macarthur, I guess, what have you made mainly of their start this season? Sort of coming into their own a little bit. I mean, away from home, they have a pretty good record, but they were pretty unfortunate not to have that win against Western Sydney as well.
Yeah, they were denied quite spectacularly against Western Sydney. two really good goals that they conceded. Federici was at fault for the first goal, the lob from Dorrans, but it was that assist from Bacchus for the second goal was outstanding, world class. But yeah, MacArthur have been. It's a strange team to watch. Their away form has been so good, but with the atmosphere that they create at their home games, with the cowbells and all of the players coming out and saying they love it, and it's they're supposed to be their fortress. It's really surprising that they haven't got 3 points there yet, and it's going to be a big test to see if they can do it against Adelaide. And they need to start picking up wins at home, as we say, to get to the finals in the end. They need to really start to kick on and get a few wins on the board and stop it from early days becoming a bit of a bogey ground for them, which they can't afford. If you can't win on your own patch, then you are going to struggle seriously throughout the season. So it's been really good to see the performance against Brisbane, but they need to back it up against Adelaide at home, which proves that they can do it in Campbelltown. And on a side note, brilliant for Dennis Shonroe scoring his first A-League goal.
I was literally about to say that. It's a Rambo project effect. What can we say? I think you messaged Denny after that goal, and he was pretty elated with that. His actual first A-League goal as well. So maybe we should bring on more players in the coming weeks. But I guess aside from that, MacArthur looked pretty good towards the end of the game. It was actually fairly boring, I'll admit, against Brisbane. But I think we'll all due a boring game once in a while. But really, they played some fantastic football in that second half. And I think this is pretty much the only glaring chance they had in that second half as well, with Wenzel Hall's unfortunate to get it wide. And that's striker instincts, and he's a shoe-in for the Olyroos, in my opinion. But I guess regardless of the fact, MacArthur have to get this win to prove that they're up there in the top four. They're definitely top four quality. It's been very hard for them to gel and really find their own. But you can see the chemistry over here. Like the passing ability of Benyat is phenomenal to latch onto that ball to Denny. And obviously this is where the goal comes. So I think really they're uncovering a lot of young players as well. Jake Holman, who was very fortunate to get that assist as well. Proves that the NPL products can also succeed in this league, as we're well aware that they can succeed in the league. But I think it's a matter of if Adelaide can just press more so than they did last game against Perth, and obviously with Halloran having a pretty solid season, and Stefan Moore obviously with that goal as well, and also the burn that he received from Neil Kilkenny, he'll be sure to fire against MacArthur in the best way possible. But as we move on to our next game, this one I'll actually attend in person, will be the Western United up against Sydney FC. Now, Western United haven't got any points they haven't got any points in this game, but they haven't got a win in 2 games. Obviously, very fortunate not to have beaten the Victory 2 weeks ago, and they come into this game where they should have won this one. The Mariners, how good are they? Well, I guess we'll talk about the Mariners a lot here, but to see that side come from the depths of hell with Mike Charlesworth willing to sell the side to a shady businessman known as Abdul Helou. No, he's not shady, but Abdul Helou. To see where they've come now with a young core, Alok Kual, Daniel Barrowman, Gianni Stensness, Matt Simon as well leading the charge as captain. It's been fantastic to see what Alan Stadgic has done. He's walking on water, as has been stated in the media this week. And to get this win against West United at home, how good?
Yeah, Alex Stadgic has been doing a fantastic job at Central Coast. And I think it's best highlighted by the stat. I think it was Brenton Speed brought it up at the end of this game in commentary. This is the first time that an A-League club have won 3 games in a row after being behind at half-time in all 3 games. That's a real testament to the character that the Mariners have shown. And also a little bit of this game was a game that Western United really should have been able to get something from, considering that they led for most of the game. It was quite worrying how they capitulated in the second half. Yes, Mariners was fantastic. They were high energy and really good going forward. But West United should have got something from this game. I don't think they deserve to lose the game.
No, I don't think so either. I just think they definitely just tracked back a little bit too much. I think, look, Uscock played well. He scored a goal. They played well, West United. I just feel like that they just had, a lot of laps in contact. Like the passing wasn't as fluid in the second half. I think it's when Berisha came off, their striking capabilities really sort of were diminished. And to give
he said that in his press conference afterwards, he came out and said we were really good for the first 65 minutes. He came off after 63.
Well, I believe Bessart, and he's a very knowledgeable character. But to leave Aluqual that much space on that first corner, I mean, his offensive positioning on corners and set pieces are fantastic. But to leave him that much space is a bit disappointing. And I think definitely West United should have just punished the game when they had the opportunity. To see Max Burgess back on the pitch is also fantastic after his stoush with the West United I'm not bored, but the coach and I guess the management. But yeah, I think really if you look at this game as a whole, West United, they need to go back on track. They have the capabilities to get back on track. They should have easily won that game against the Victory if it wasn't for some VAR complications, which I do think that Pariah's goal was offside. I'm still very confident that it was, but really against Sydney FC, they have the quality to win this game, but it's really going to come down to which side wants it more. I know it's very cliche, but it did seem like West United definitely tracked back in that second half, and they didn't really want that victory as much as Central Coast Mariners did, and that's the fight that they have within them. Sydney FC, they're sort of back on track, pending obviously Bobo's arrival. I'm not sure if he'll feature in this game, but plenty to like. Patrick Wood is proving a valuable asset. Geordie Swibble coming on in many stages, doing pretty well. But the main attraction from this game, Costa Barbarouses has scored his first outfield goal in 12 months.
Yeah, it's a strange one with Sydney because all of the focus has been on the Mariners and Brisbane and Western Sydney, actually, in terms of the race for the top three, top two places. But actually, Sydney have got, I think it's 2 games in hand over the Mariners and have lost just 1 game. They're going under the radar. And, if they win those 2 games in hand, they'll be top. So, yeah, we've sort of slated Sydney a bit on the pod recently. They obviously lack the striking capabilities that they had last season. Patrick Wood is going a long way to fixing that. I think he's been particularly impressive, and Costa Barbarouses is really good on him to get his first couple of goals from outfield for a while. So yeah, it's a strange one with Sydney, but they definitely are still in the race. You cannot discount them, and I think if you're Western United, you're coming out of a couple of games that you should have really got more from. And obviously you're winless for a while. You don't want to be facing Sydney FC and thinking to yourselves, yeah, we need to get something from this game. That's not a position you want to be in because Sydney will hurt you. They
will hurt you. I mean, only with 7 shots, they scored 2 goals.
Yeah.
In a game in which Wellington probably deserved something, if you be honest. I think they played well. I think just their defensive positioning for those 2 goals wasn't as good as it could be. Keep in mind, Wellington are a decent side. They probably don't deserve to be second last on the table. Obviously, we'll go into the Victory game that they're playing next on Monday, but there's a lot to like from this Sydney side. It proves how deep their lineup goes. I think Neuenhoff also got some minutes, which was fantastic, and to see Paulo Retro and Cacera has also come off the bench. Those are starting caliber players, and they've still got a lot of depth as well. Beyond that as well in their youth academy. So they've got the quality. It's just a matter of when Bobo comes back and what Bobo can do. And when he makes hopefully a bench appearance in the coming weeks, to see how they can really fix and be the final sort of piece of the puzzle. I mean, Ninkovic was outstanding as well. And just a little shout out to Zavella. He's torn his ACL again. Announced today by the club. It's very sad to see someone like that come back into the side literally last game and just tear his ACL again. Was frightening to see, and the worst possible scenario that came out of that. I hope you're feeling better, man. I mean, oh, geez, it must be crushing for him.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. And he's a talented player. He hit form just before his first injury and was developing as one of the better prospects in the league. And I think, it must be gutting having the last, I think it's been 12, 18 months that he's not been around the A-League squad thinking, I could be making an impact here. So yeah, it's just devastating really that he can't showcase his talents yet again. He's got another 12 months as a setback.
Yeah, but I think really for this game, Sydney FC should have the upper hand, but they do have quite a lot of inexperience. So I would not be surprised if Sydney FC do falter and we do get quite an interesting turn of events here. If Sydney FC do win this, it will really come down to the quality they have from the experienced players like Luke Bratton and the likes of, as opposed to West United's, I guess, more experienced players. I mean, they've got Durante and Berisha and Diamanti. They're like 38 each. So they've got older players, necessarily speaking. But going into our last game, Western Sydney, the game last night, actually, Western Sydney against Victory. The victory looked better. It looked better, but it's not saying much, is it? I mean, they looked better in many stages. The Wanderers punished them when they needed to. I mean, the penalty was a penalty. This is very choppy. I might just try and sort this out before we redo this. But, the Wanderers have got a lot to look forward to. They're playing well. They've got Jordan Much coming into the side. They've got Mitch Duke, for crying out loud. Perennial title contenders, potentially. They haven't been entirely convincing, though. You would think for a team that is literally third on the table that they dominate their games more. But, they've only lost one game this season, so they've been pretty good.
Yeah, it's hard to make something of Western Sydney because you can't say they've been as good as the likes of Brisbane and Central Coast Mariners this season. But it's really strange because they're still up there. I think it's a lot to do with the fact that they've played a lot of games already. And they have been impressive in patches, but they really struggle to close out games. We saw that against Newcastle. They could so easily be further up the table than they are at the moment. But yeah, I think another thing for me is they don't yet seem to have been able to regularly score a lot of goals. I don't see them handing out a thrashing. I don't see them contending with the likes of Perth or Western United for in a high-scoring game. I think they've only got about 1 or 2 goals in them, and they just rely on being able to defend and close out the game, which they can't do effectively. So a lot of that will improve when they get Mitch Duke. When he comes out of quarantine, that will be the sort of player that will be able to fire him to a couple more goals per game. But yeah, it's a strange situation with them. But they can definitely improve, and if they can improve from being third, you can't not mention them in the title race as contenders. They've been, in places really, really good, and particularly Yeboah closing out the game. It's good to see him get a goal after what's been a bit of a struggle this season.
It was really Kukum's fault, but it's good to see that they have attacking firepower that can still do stuff for them. I mean, most of the goals have come from the midfield this season. I mean, Simon Cox got that goal last week against MacArthur, albeit from some, Keanu Bacchus Riley channeling his inner Riley McGree. But I guess to see how far Western Sydney have come this season has been fantastic. And, this penalty was just beyond me. How that Graham Doran's karate kick was also not a red card also baffles me. But I won't talk too much about that because we can get into a lot of trouble there. But look, as soon as this goal came in, Western City just really channeled their inner attacking force. It really pressed the victory, and they ensured that they would get the 3 points here. I mean, Dorrans has, I'll admit, improved in recent weeks. He's really settled into that defensive midfielder role. I mean, I guess he's pushing up a little bit more, but to say that he's washed up and he came here for a payday is a bit ridiculous. Now, I think he's proven his worth within the competition. He's definitely adapting to the tempo that Carl Robinson has enforced. But the fact that they have two very good players coming through as well, if Jordan Much proves to be a valuable asset, which he has been in the past, he's got some injury issues as well. But hopefully he can have an injury-free season, injury-free spell when he comes to the side. And who knows what we can expect from the Wanderers. And I think against City, as we will talk about them in a couple of seconds, they've been struggling a lot. And I think Kisnorbo's tactical decisions will have to prove extremely valuable against a side which will punish you if you do not make the apt decisions in transition. You look at how they latched onto Victory's balls, pause passes, and I guess this attacking phase of play really illustrated, when at their best, what Western Sydney are capable of. So plenty to talk about from their perspective. But going into a game in which we really expected the Newcastle Jets to put up a good fight, and they did. They won. And yeah, Kisnorbo's position as the manager was placed under intense scrutiny. It was put under a microscope, really, on the plausibility of his credentials as a senior coach within the A-League. And to see both sides struggle, both Melbourne sides struggle in the A-League, we haven't seen that ever, really. It's either been both or one of them. So it's both one of them succeeds, sorry. But besides this chance by Jamie McLaren, they didn't really get anything in that first half. And that second half chance with Adrian Luna as well should have been parried away as well. So, yeah, it seems that they're just too direct. That's how I see it.
Yeah, it's strange that they've got such an attacking side. They've got probably the only attack that can really compete with Perth's in terms of quality in the individual players. And it's just really strange that they can't seem to get it together. And also there's the obvious brain fades with the disciplinary issues as well. That's really, really been holding them back in games. I think they've had 2 red cards already this season, which is ridiculous, frankly. And I think the one for, I think it was Stokes against Central Coast Mariners, the second yellow card. Both yellow card fouls he doesn't really need to make. Particularly the first one, it's early in the first half to get a yellow card as a centre half. And I think that just allowed Central Coast Mariners to get back into that game because, Quoll and Simon knew that Stokes was on the yellow card and they would just push him, run at him at every opportunity, keep the ball at the ground and make him make tackles and make him make challenges. And eventually, he messed up in the end after this second Mariners goal, and that pretty much killed City's hopes of getting anything from that game. They had to defend for the rest of the game, and the Mariners are too good to just defend against. They will find a way to score on the basis of this season.
Yeah, I think the City's problems. I mean, defensively, Nuno Reis looked okay. I wasn't too impressed by this, but like in a chance like this, I mean, besides Angus Thurgate looking like Usain Bolt, you should just. There were 2 chances in the game, 2 clear-cut chances that City had that both should have been finished. I mean, Jamie McLaren this season, I'll admit, against West United where he did score, he didn't look too great. He didn't look too great at all. He hasn't really looked entirely convincing in any of the games this season. I mean, you look at the A-League scoring charts, And who's the top there? You've got Alo Cole with 5, Dylan Winslow-Hawes with 5, Fornaroli with 4, D'Agostino with 4, and Valentino Ewell with 4. McLaren's nowhere to be seen there. And it's definitely worrying to see our arguably Socceroos striker, the starting 11 striker, just fail this season so far. So I think it's really up to him to sort of turn the tide around for City. But this game that they have against Western Sydney, it's huge for them. If they can get this victory, they will prove that they're business, and it'll really boost the confidence of the squad as well. And I think with Nuno Reis really coming into the attack, that side and staking his claim as possibly a starting 11 defender, if Ross and Griffiths can get fit, he may provide some competition for him. But I think regardless of the fact, it's a huge game for Patrick Norbo. It could be make or break for him. I'm not sure if they're looking at sacking him this early, but they're 9th on the table, 6 from 6. So not too promising. I mean, that win against Brisbane and that victory against West United, they were both not entirely convincing. So more to expect from City's end, but we'll definitely see what can happen ahead of this weekend. So I guess we'll go into just some final thoughts, Cameron, on what caught your attention, what caught your eye on sort of the social media sphere this week, and the likes of, obviously, the main idea that we got out of that Central Coast game against West United was, wow, the A-League's really good, isn't it? So I guess, what are your thoughts on that? Obviously, with the broadcast deal coming in as well, is this the best A-League season we've had in recent memory?
I've been watching the A-League since about 2016, fully. I've sort of followed it in patches before then, but I started fully watching every other game at least in 2016. And for my money, this has been the best season in terms of the entertainment. Obviously, the quality, it might not be the same as the sort of glory days when Western Sydney were firing as well as they did. But yeah, it's been, for my money, the best season to watch as a fan and as a spectator. It's definitely been really, really exciting. And you see on social media the buzz around all of these games. I think if you go and look on Twitter while there's a game going, A-League is trending, which can only be a good thing. And then, yeah, it's the amount of goals that we're getting, the drama, the narratives that we're having, even like the artificial ones that have been coming out, the Melbourne Victory, Western United rivalry, there's stuff that's going on there with Western United trying to rile up the Victory. All of the stuff between Newcastle Jets and Western Sydney, that's becoming a really good narrative. And even the Diary Derby between Neil Kilkenny and Stephen Moore, that's going to be one to watch for the future. No doubt when Adelaide and Perth next play, that's going to be a really, really good encounter, because all of the focus will be between who can get the upper hand out of those two. And those two players are so influential in their teams. Whoever gets the upper hand in that game will win that game, because of how good both those players have been and how central they are to how those teams play. So it's really, really exciting seeing all of these little narratives everywhere. And that's providing such a good platform for really, really entertaining games. Seeing the young players come through as well has been fantastic. We're actually singing the praises of the A-League at the moment, which before this season, I don't think anyone could have foreseen how well the league would be doing right now.
I think, part of it's youngsters, part of it's the narratives that are occurring, and I guess with the fledgling TV ratings and whatnot. I mean, we haven't yet to see that really pick up so far, but we're in a transitional period, as James Johnson has said, over the past couple of months, and as Gregor Rourke and the likes of have said. I just really think that I'm at the most optimistic about the competition I've been since I started following the A-League intensely, which was probably about 2 years ago. Going into what will be an intense negotiation period with Fox as well as potential other TV broadcasters who would like to pick up this competition. This is the best advertisement. The performances on the pitch, the narratives that you can create, is ultimately what is going to bring in these $30 million, $40 million TV deals. If this Stefan Moore and Kilkenny Stoush was broadcasted to more eyes, not strictly on a free-to-air TV deal, but Fox, I know that there's a boxing match coming up next week, okay? You don't need to tell me at every single ad break. If you would have advertised the A-League on a broader scale, it would be successful in its environment, I feel. You know, in past season with the Sydney FC domination, possibly not. Since the 2017-18 season, I don't think we've really experienced an A-League which has been so dynamic. It really tantalizing fixtures, entertaining fixtures, narratives, and just brilliant quality all around. The quality is better, and going into these winter months, the quality is only going to improve as well. There's more to look forward to. There's more players who are going to get scattered by these European clubs and more transfers overseas. We're now implementing a transfer system. I think we're at a very optimistic stage. And if COVID couldn't destroy the A-League, nothing's destroying the A-League in the future. So besides, I guess, Fox really just neglecting the A-League as a whole, the product as a whole, I think it's looking up for us. But really, I think this weekend, we've got 3 big fixtures. So in the immediate future, that's what I'm looking forward to. And I'm looking forward to going to, you know, your AAMI Park and seeing a roaring atmosphere, hopefully, ahead of 3 games in the next week.
Yeah, I'm on AAMI Park, and I've woken up and seen all of the Twitter stuff going on with the double standards between.
You know what? Like, let's talk about that briefly.
Yeah, it's. I don't know how someone can type out on an official Twitter account that response. It didn't answer the question that was posed to them, and it basically went, we organise all of this, but if you want to speak to someone, speak to the Victorian government. They didn't really give a proper answer. They just said it's different for different venues. Yeah, it is different. One's indoors and one's outdoors. Nightclubs can be open with 300 people in, singing and dancing inside, but you can't socially distance, chant and stand at an A-League game.
No, it's
the AFL is having 75,000 fans at their game. No doubt they'll be fine to stand. The tennis, Nick Kyrgios's game, plenty of people rushed forward at the end of the game to try and get autographs and what have you from the players. They're all mixing together really closely there. They're all shouting and chanting in that game. How is that any different to what about AAMI Park is so different to those venues that makes it worse and more of a risk at AAMI Park?
No, I think
we need some sort of explanation as to why that is, rather than people just saying it's different. Okay, how is it different? Tell us, transparency. You know, if there's a genuine reason why there needs to be such strict measures at AAMI Park compared to everywhere else, then yeah, you would get a much more understanding views from A-League fans. But if you're just hiding behind the fact that it's a Victorian government and you've devised this safety plan and it's different for different venues, then you're going to get a lot of criticism, and you're going to have rightly riled up a lot of people because it just doesn't make any sense.
No, it makes principally no sense to me how I can go to a club and then, you know, inside confined space, you know, no social distancing, 350 people inside. I'm not even sure how many people are in that venue, but in said venues. But look, AAMI Park is a 30,000 seater stadium. John Cain Arena is 10,000 seater stadium. Probably the same capacity, if not less, in terms of how the volume of people that are going to be in the stadium. Like, you look per square meter. I think AAMI Park's biggest crowd has been 10,000, and John Cain Arena would have got 5,000, and that's less than half the capacity, and I'm sure the Nick Kyrgios game yesterday was sold out. I'll tell you what, getting tickets to the game tomorrow has been an absolute nightmare for me. So shows you the perhaps double standards that the Victorian government have enforced here. I'm not hampering criticism onto the government. I understand that protocol must be enforced. However, just transparency would be great. I understand active support can exist in a socially distant environment. It is on you purely. The fact that there weren't police officers to say, look, just socially distance, this and that at the Victory versus Brisbane game. That's what started everything, and that's why there's been a lot of conjecture around Victory stuff to that. No, it was the Amy Park officials that failed to act, and there needs to be a concrete plan in place for the Victorian government to enforce active support in the best way possible. I love seeing vibrant atmospheres within the competition. You look at the crowd last night got the Kyrgios to win, and that's the sort of narrative that's been drummed up in these past sort of 24 hours. However, I just feel that the complete and utter disregard for football fans in general, especially within Melbourne, over the past 2-3 weeks has been disgusting. By no means am I condoning not socially distanced fans clammed into one bay, chanting as we did see the original style Melbourne do about a month and a half ago at the start of the season. However, there just need to be a concrete plan in place. And I'm sorry, although the Australian Open may bring in more revenue, the A-League still has a very, very strong place in the Melbourne sporting calendar. And if you're going to host a Women's World Cup, and the organizers are seeing this happen, especially within the same organizer, I mean, the Melbourne Olympic Park's own Amy Park and the whole of Melbourne Park, I'm not sure they'd be too pleased. Not sure they've even looked at it, but it doesn't matter. It's not a good look for the competition. So I think for Amy Park to come out is good. Well done. Thanks for coming out and listening to fans' complaints. But there was definitely a lot of there was plenty of discussion about that today, and at least the issue is being discussed in full force now. So I think we should expect more coming from this weekend, and you bet I'll be first onto it for the West United and City games. I mean, West United, I'm not sure how many people will show up to that. I'm not sure if it will be like a behind closed doors fixture by the looks of things, but who knows? I'm remaining optimistic. West United coming to Melbourne again, it's fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, Western United are better suited to playing at Amy Park. The fans are much closer to the pitch than at Western United's ground in Geelong, which makes for a far better atmosphere. And Western United's players are are going to benefit from having the fans and that atmosphere. Although, there's a question mark over whether that's going to happen for the Sydney game. But yeah, it's a lot better that they are playing at Amy Park than out of town. Yeah, it's not so good for the geographical
divide per se. But look, it's a big game. Whenever Sydney FC come to town, it's always a good fixture, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to as well. Seeing Tomer Hemed come to Melbourne, a personal favorite of mine, one of the nicest blokes I've ever met. We'll try and get him on for an interview. But boy, I hope the Israeli community comes out on Wednesday night next week. But thank you all for watching the Round the Ball warm up once again. I haven't posted an actual podcast in about 5 weeks, which something I need to get back onto. But I've been recording, and we will recommence more so. But this show's been taking up a lot of my time, and I think Cameron will also say it's been an absolutely wonderful couple weeks. We can't wait to see what's happening next.
Yeah, and hopefully we should have a guest next week.
Yeah. So just if you saw, you would have seen a promotion during the week that we were advertising a guest for that week. He had to pull out last minute, but yeah, hopefully we'll get said guests on in the future. But yeah, have a wonderful week, everyone. Cheer on Nick Kyrgios tomorrow, and also maybe watch the A League on KO split screen if you can. Sorry, Channel 9. I'm all over the place. Never mind. But yeah, I'll catch you guys soon, and yeah, all the best.